Why do we say that giving African Americans citizenship in Africa is an essential part for their growth and development in Africa? It's true. Trust me, it's true when we say so. So listen, African Americans are coming to Africa today. Most of the diasporans are coming back to Africa today. And the biggest question is, if we could have given African Americans citizenship in Africa, 100% transitions of those African Americans who want to come back to Africa, it could have led to success for Africa. Remember, Africa has always been exploited. We have been exploited. This is the race to which have always been exploited. Can you imagine if Africans could have just come together? They could have led to development of Africa. Thank you guys for watching this channel. This is Eugene, the African Kid, and today I'm gonna be telling you why is it essential for African Americans to be given citizenship for the development of Africa. Did you know that in Africa, very soon we are launching our own app called the Africa app, and this Kenyan person is called Andrew Kibe is looking for people, African investors, who can help invest in this, because this is going to be a big platform where creators can come together, and we need a lot of investors from the Africa. Where are African Americans? How are they going to chip in this section? It is important for African Americans to come back home, and this is what I've been always telling you. Now I'm going to tell you, giving African American citizenship is an essential part for Africans' development. I'm going to tell you this as a matter of fact. So African Americans, let me give you a short story about Africa app. Africa app is an app which is just like YouTube. So remember when YouTube started? When was it? 2009, 2010. Back then, people never knew that it could come a big platform that everyone is watching today, that you also watching me. But remember, the same thing, there is an African, there is a Kenyan somewhere who is starting this thing, and is calling every investors, is calling different stakeholders to come together for them to make this happen. This is a right spot for you African Americans to jump in. Why African Americans? I know you're asking a lot of that question. We have a lot of Africans who can do that, but why am I saying African Americans? Ask yourself that question. I'm going to answer you by reading this research that I did. Listen, African Americans have a substantial economic influence. So listen, as of 2021, the collective buying power of black consumers in the United States was estimated to be $1.4 trillion, which could significantly contribute to Africa's economic growth if channeled towards investment in various African sectors. Yes, you have high consuming power, you people from the black community, I as a person from the black community, but you back in the United States, you have a high consuming power. That's why a great investment from you in Africa can really, really help you, and can also really help develop Africa, you see. And such kind of opportunities, you are required to jump into them. So Africans are jumping for opportunities in Africa that are booming with promising returns. In Nigeria, Nigerian states needs innovators to drive their lucrative energy potential production. Yes, we have a lot of loopholes in Africa that you can invest in. That's why Africa needs to give African American 100% transition citizenship to come and settle in Africa. I know some people might wonder, xenophobia will start because they feel like there will be a competition. Yes, there will be a competition. Remember, that's the place where you were supposed to be even before slavery happened. This is the place where your forefathers were. So let's fight together. Let's stay here together. Let's build Africa as one person. You see, let's build Africa as one person. Recently, Mr. Beast came to Kenya, came to Uganda. He built wells, and his name was very praised, So these kind of loopholes, we have a lot of loopholes in Africa economically, which can help us. You see, young youths doesn't have employment. People are taking drugs everywhere. Some are also leaving Africa and going to places like Canada, United Kingdom, and to the United States. They are being mistreated there just because in Africa is not developed. That's why we need you African Americans to come back to Africa to build your own country. This is the place where you are supposed to be. This is the place where you are required to be. Now, coming back to Africa will help you build and bridge such kind of gaps. Another importance of you coming to Africa, which will it's essential for our own development and for your development as an African who is tracing their roots, and also as an African who is an investor. Listen, many African Americans possess valuable skills, knowledge, and expertise in various fields like technology, finance, healthcare, and entrepreneurship, which can be harnessed for African development. Those skills that you have, please bring them to Africa. You see, and I'm going to tell you something which I also did a research and find out. Listen, Econ targets to build a cryptocurrency city, accommodating people full of all social classes, an investment that will boost West African economy progress. The crypto will increase employment and reduce levels of poverty in Africa. Econ is setting an example for we as Africans to come and invest, reduce poverty in Africa. You see, such kind of investments you can jump in. I don't know, you have what type of skill, come put it in Africa. Any type of skill that you have, you see, the advantage that you have, you as an African American, is that still in Africa today there isn't still that stiff competition as back in the United States, as back in United Kingdom, as back in Canada. Back there is so much competition, but when you come to Africa, there still ain't such kind as an competition. And those wise African Americans are taking it right now, and they're coming in Africa and they're investing in Africa. When you realize that, it will be so late. So that's why I'm telling you, please come back home and invest in your own continent. I don't know what it costs. Imagine you're reconnecting back to your roots at the same time you are investing in your own country. If you have a business in the United States or United Kingdom or Canada, well and good. Come still and invest in Africa. To your advantage, you'll be helping your fellow blacks. You'll be, creating the development for Africa, and that's what we need. Imagine our resources are being exploited. Every now and then, Congo, people are fighting. What if we come together as Africans, you African Americans, come together and say, let's stop this, because this is the resources of our forefathers. Let's find a way of harnessing these resources. Let's find a way of stopping these people who are extracting our own resources, taking back them to their countries, and, we as Africans, we're just looking at them like we are brainwashed. So if we come together, it will help us fight together collectively as people. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. It's really, really important for you to come, help us fight these people who are extracting our resources. Africa is rich. We only need people who can help us air out what we're saying. We have corrupt leaders. Some are being bribed to do so. They are given loans to do so. And they are letting our own resources, which have trillions and trillions of money, keeps leaving Africa, going to the United States, going to Russia, every part of European countries, you understand? Which is so sad. What if we could have just come together as Africans and harness these opportunities that we have? I'm telling you this for free. Come to Africa as early as possible. Find the right channel of investment. Find any loophole that you can find in Africa that you can invest in. Invest right now. This is the time of investment. 10 years from now, Africa is rising. I'll tell you that as a matter of fact. And their minds are opening, people's minds are opening. And now when you come to Africa and invest right now, 10 years when you look back, you'll say that I did the right thing. Because back in the United States, people are complaining of systemic racism. Competition is there. There are a lot of things that are happening. Black business is not going on well. Why don't you come back in Africa and invest in your continent? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why should you come to your continent and invest? Doesn't have to be specifically Ghana. Doesn't have to be specifically Kenya. Doesn't have to be specifically Gambia or Tanzania or anywhere. Find a country that has a problem and invest in them. If Mr. Beast could realize that there are some places which are lacking water, and then it could, come up with ways of coming up with water for these children who are school going. Such kind of an investment, it's a big investment if you look at you as a person or as African American, if you can come to your own continent and build it. You see, some people are realizing this, and sometimes I see a lot of Indians, I see a lot of Chinese, I see a lot of Europeans coming here and investing. They have supermarkets, they have malls, big ones, they have car companies that they are dealing with. But if we look at the percentages between them and the African Americans, it's so big. That's why you are developing, because those people are investing in Africa, taking the resources back to their country. What if you invest in Africa? You build your own continent. You coming and tracing your roots. Okay? You just do a small homework. Just find a way in which you can invest. There's a big hotel which has been built in Liberia. In Liberia, are building hotel in Monrovia. The BET Music Awards founder Robert Johnson, together with Liberian officials, have invested in this, type of business. We have a lot of businesses in Africa that you can invest in. It's only few African Americans who have noticed this, and they are harnessing this opportunity. I don't know why it's always people will realize something until it's in the last minute. When people are saying something while it's early, people are not taking the advantage while it's early. If you have the resources, you have the power to come and invest in Africa. Please invest as early as now. If you have the means, if you have the resources, if you can come to Africa, have your own citizenship. Africa needs you. Enough is enough. We've been exploited for quite a long time. We have corrupt leaders who still bows down to these people. But if we come together as Africans, we can stop these corrupt leaders. We want to see African Americans advocating for political seats in Africa to stop corruption which is happening here, because our people are still conforming to these people. We want non-conforming African leaders who can stick with their people, who can stick with what is right, with building their own continent. And these changes can only come radically when we give you citizenship, so that we see new faces in the political seats in Africa, and that begins with you coming back home to Africa, claiming citizenship. Whether you studied politics, you studied political science, what type of studies, you can come and vie for a political seat and do the right thing. Make Africa develop, because that's what we were called for to do. And that's what we are supposed to do. We as Africans, and radically you guys are good at that. You can do that, and we believe that you can do that. So come back to Africa. Build your own continent. The time is now. What I'm saying is that we want African Americans' political influence in Africa. Let me read you this thing. Granting citizenship could foster stronger diplomatic ties, which is true, advocacy for African interest, and increased political representation for African Americans in the global forum. Yes, when we have African Americans in the African political seats, they can open forums for African Americans to come, and this will make us recognize, majority of Africans recognize that we need each other as brothers. You see, when we need each other as brothers, African Americans will start coming to Africa. The question that you might ask yourself, African natives will start saying, what and what and what and what. Yes, let them say, come to Africa. Imagine you could have been in Africa if it weren't for slavery, and that's the truth. I don't know if you might take it bad, but that's the truth. Now it's the time to return back to Africa. If you're proud of your continent, come back and build it. Kwame Nkrumah, the president of Ghana, the founder, the person who fight for Pan-Africanism, he came up with ways of, equality for Africans, for people from the black community. He urged African Americans to come back to Africa. W. Du Bois also said the same thing. You people, come back to your country, build your country before it's too late. The blacks population keeps on decreasing because of interracial marriages in the United States. But if you come to Africa, the black will increase, because we'll be among blacks ourselves. We'll have blacks ourselves. We'll invest in black, and black business will grow and will be recognized as one of African rising continental rising superpowers. Africa have always been stepped by this country, Russia, China, name them all. We have always been stepped. Little did we know that the one thing that we only needed is elites. If we have educated elites who are from the United States, which are black community, because remember, it is the African Americans who have built the United States, and that knowledge, the same knowledge, we need it in Africa. So if you bring the same knowledge in Africa, that gonna bring something which is so magnificent in our own country, in our own continent. That's why we call you to build your continent. You see, it's sad that when a person is sick, they're taken to India for surgery. People who are doing Indian surgery are black Americans, people with black descent. So you wonder, why should these people come to Africa and invest in their own country? You know, what's wrong with us? What happened with us? That's the question that I'm asking you. You are a technocrat in a given part. It can be tech, it can be innovation. Come to Africa. Africa is really bleeding. It wants life. Africa needs life. Mama Africa is calling you to come to Africa. I'm obliged to share with you this message. If you're a person who is back in the United States, you are capable of investing, you are capable of making a lot of money, come and invest in Africa. You won't regret. You will save lives of Africans, and you'll also be happy, and you'll get your profitable returns. I've given you an example of Tanzania. They're still struggling with infrastructure. You know, we are also struggling with other things which are facing us. The rise of, the standard of living keeps on increasing in Africa. You know, everyday taxes, people are complaining. That's why we need African Americans to come and invest in Africa. Our leaders are taking loans every night, every morning, every morning. Why don't we have new faces in the government where we come together and put new faces there which works for us? You know, enough is enough, and this is the time. If you come to Africa now, 10 years to come, you'll say that it was worth it coming to Africa. Most of people who know this don't tell you. They don't tell you they come to Africa. They are your friends in the United States. They come to Africa. They don't tell you what happened. They go silent. Because they are investing, they're not telling you. They find opportunities. They found a lot of things that they can do. Farming. There are large tracts of pieces of land in Africa, and they can do farming with that. Some are doing real estates. There are a lot of things that you can do. I mean, sometimes I wish I could have the powers of just turning your mind to come back to your own country. But I can't do that. The only thing I can do is just to tell you. So if you're watching this video for the first time, kindly consider subscribing to my channel. If you're my newest returning subscriber, thank you so much. Shout out to all my fans from the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, and all my African friends. This is the right time to come to Africa. The time is now. If it's not now, then I don't know.